All right, let's dive right in. We're going to tackle one of the biggest, most powerful ideas in all of philosophy, Soren Kierkegaard's absolutely mind-bending take on anxiety. We're all taught that anxiety is this problem, right? Something you've got to fix or manage or just get rid of. But what if that's totally backward? Kierkegaard comes along and says, hold on a second. What if anxiety isn't a flaw? What if it's actually a vital, maybe even necessary, part of being alive? And this right here is his big idea summed up perfectly. Think about it. Picture yourself standing on the edge of a massive cliff. The fear, that's the fear of falling, of slipping. But the anxiety, that's something else entirely. That's the gut-wrenching realization that you could jump. It's that dizzying, terrifying feeling you get when you grasp the endless, scary scope of your own freedom.
So he makes this super important distinction. Fear is simple. It has an object. You're afraid of the growling dog or of failing the test. It's about something real, something concrete. But anxiety? Well, anxiety is different. It's objectless. It's this vague dread about, well, nothing specific. It's the dread of everything that could happen. He even has this cool term for it, a sympathetic antipathy. You know that weird feeling where you're both drawn to and totally repulsed by a possibility? That's it right there.
Okay, so to really get where this anxiety comes from, Kierkegaard says we got to go all the way back to the beginning, back to the idea of innocence. And he's got a specific meaning for this. Think about Adam in the Garden of Eden. His innocence wasn't about being morally perfect. Nope, it was just ignorance. He literally didn't know what good and evil were. For him, those concepts just hadn't been invented yet.
So the big question is, how do you go from that state of not knowing to, well, knowing, to guilt? Kierkegaard's answer is that it's not some logical A to B to C process. You can't just think your way out of innocence. It's something else. It's a sudden, jarring jump, what he calls a qualitative leap. And this is where it gets tricky. Kind of like a puzzle. If you try to map it out logically, something's missing. I mean, God tells Adam, hey, don't eat the fruit. But how can Adam possibly understand that as a choice between good and evil if he has no idea what good and evil even mean? It doesn't add up. There's this huge logical gap.
And boom, that's where anxiety comes in. According to Kierkegaard, anxiety is that missing step. It's that unexplainable feeling in the gap. It's like your soul is waking up to its own freedom, its own power to just do something. It doesn't make the leap logical, not at all, but it's the feeling, the psychological state that makes the leap happen. It's the spark.
And this is a really radical idea, so stick with me. For Kierkegaard, freedom isn't just about choosing between two options that are already there, like picking a white shirt or a black shirt. No way. It's so much bigger than that. The very act of choosing, that leap, is what creates the ideas of good and evil for you in the first place. Now, this was a huge shot across the bow at other philosophers of his time, especially guys like Hegel. Hegel saw the world as this perfect logical system where everything just neatly unfolds. Possibility just becomes actuality, easy peasy. Kierkegaard was like, are you kidding me? For him, life is messy. It's unpredictable. It's full of these crazy, illogical leaps that you can't just box up in some neat philosophical system. Okay, so you've made the leap. You're out of the garden, so to speak. You are painfully aware of your own freedom. Now what? Well, once you're here, in this world of guilt and freedom, the path can split in some really different ways. One way you can go is down a path Kierkegaard calls the demonic. And let's be super clear here. He's not talking about little red guys with pitchforks, not at all. He's talking about a state of mind, a deep, internal kind of unfreedom.
So what does that look like? Well, the demonic person is basically trapped by their own freedom. They're terrified of it. They shut themselves off, refuse to be truly known. He calls this enclosing reserve. It's like putting your own soul in solitary confinement. And what comes out is just the sudden. These weird, unpredictable outbursts, because nothing is connected. At the end of the day, it's a contentless, even boring existence, because it's a life that refuses to actually live and engage with all the possibilities. Really, what it all boils down to is untruth. It's being fundamentally dishonest with yourself and with everyone around you. It's living in this constant, gnawing fear of being exposed, of people seeing who you really are. You're unfree because you're scared to death of what true freedom asks of you, to be seen. So yeah, the demonic state is basically a full-on sprint away from that dizziness of freedom. It's a desperate and ultimately useless attempt to unring the bell, to undo that leap, and just shut down all the possibilities so you don't have to deal with the responsibility and the guilt that comes with them.
But that's not the only path, right? There has to be another way. If running away from anxiety lands you in that state of unfreedom, what happens if you turn around and face it?
And this is where Kierkegaard's thinking takes this incredible, powerful turn. He flips the whole script. He says anxiety isn't a sickness you need to cure. Far from it. It's your greatest teacher. The experience of possibility, he says, is the best education you can ever get.
I mean, just listen to this idea. It's amazing. He says that when you truly confront the whole terrifying range of what's possible, when you really let yourself sink into that dizziness, you don't break. You don't get destroyed. You actually come out the other side lighter. You face the abyss, and now you're freer than anyone who's just spent their life clinging to what's safe and predictable.
So how exactly does it teach us? Well, it's constantly reminding you that you are not a finished product. You're not set in stone. Every single moment, anxiety shows you the infinite paths branching out in front of you. And because of that, you have to choose. You have to act. And in that endless process of choosing, that's how you create yourself. It's literally the engine that builds your identity.
Now, for Kierkegaard, this whole educational journey does lead somewhere. He believed that once you've been completely educated by possibility, once you've stared right into that abyss of freedom and didn't flinch, the only true place to find peace is through faith. It's another leap, this time into a kind of certainty that logic can never give you.
So at the end of it all, we're left with a pretty intense thought. Kierkegaard lays out a choice for us, and it's a stark one. On one hand, you can have a comfortable, spiritless life, which is really just a prison of unfreedom. Or you can have a life of genuine, authentic freedom, but it means anxiety will always be your companion. So the question he leaves hanging in the air for all of us is, if anxiety is the price of freedom, is it a price you're willing to pay?